Thank you for joining us on the Acquisition HQ podcast, where we interview seasoned operators of companies anywhere between 2 to 50 million in EBITDA. We also interview M&A experts that have gone through companies that have gone IPO, as well as people that have done several transactions, hundreds and hundreds of transactions. And collectively, we have an extraordinary amount of knowledge that's on the podcast with people just like John here that flew in all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, and he's actually a part of the AHQ Council out there in Nashville. John Lewis is a strategic CFO and founder of Arbor Lane, where he partners with private equity sponsors, founders, and boards to build investor-grade financial and operational infrastructure that drives valuation readiness and disciplined growth. Over a 25-year career, John has contributed to 3 IPOs, 7 exits, and more than 75 M&A transactions across industries, including SaaS, manufacturing, life sciences, CPG, and healthcare. He specializes in aligning long-range strategy with operational execution so companies can improve revenue quality, expand margins, and maximize enterprise value ahead of major liquidation events. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. That was quite a mouthful.
Well, I was just getting after it.
Oh, man,
you're the one who did all
it.
that. So
It's amazing.
But look, it is truly an honor to have you on the show here. And, we interview people just like yourself to help share deep insight and wisdom for operators out there, other investors, to help them understand due diligence process from a financial standpoint, as well as other M&A service providers that may utilize your best practices. So let's talk about a little bit more about your background, and then we'll dive right into some questions here about value drivers within companies.
Yeah, so my background, born and raised in Silicon Valley. So what a better place, right, to, start a career, and started it back in the 80s, right? So I've been 25 plus, you do the math.
So imagine the energy there in San Fran.
A lot. Well, and it wasn't San Fran at the beginning. It was all Santa Clara, all Sunnyvale. That's where Silicon Valley is still at its best. You talk about large companies. I worked for AMD right back in the day, right out of college. Started as production control and then moved into financial analysis and, built my career from the ground up. So you learn side by side from some really good people who have built companies right before you, and you learn their playbook. And you just continue building and learning as you go. You're always learning.
I like what you said, and I want to continue to uncover more about the playbook that you have talked about. A lot of people have playbooks, but I'd like to uncover more about what your playbook is, increasing value in companies.
Yeah, so specifically, I use a playbook. I see the office of the CFO, right? And throughout my career, I'm not always the CFO, right? But everybody tied to the office of the CFO, so the whole financial organization of the company, right? I see them as an enterprise value accelerator. What does that mean? It means every day we're coming to work, we're not only aligning, right? The CFO owns the strategic planning, but where's that long-term vision? And then translating that vision to a target model. Where are we going to be in 3? Where are we going to be in 5 years? And then cascading that down to operating cadences. What are we doing ultimately on a day-to-day business to ensure that, okay, we have our long, I'll just go into some of it. We have our long-range model, 3 to 5 years. Now we have a rolling 6-quarter forecast underneath it, right? These are large companies, right? They're doing EBITDA 30 to 50 million. Those type companies should be there. And they should be making quarter after quarter after quarter, building that cadence, building the trust. So they say what they're going to do every quarter, and they come through, and they make numbers 7, 8 quarters in a row. Every once in a while, something will happen. They'll miss quarters, but they adjust. And adjust. You see it early, you adjust, you learn, you keep on.
What do you see with companies that are within that range, but also maybe a little bit less than what the EBITDA that you had spoke about? What are you seeing that they do not do that you would suggest them doing right away, really to create more value within the company?
Yeah, I see
organization from a financial standpoint.
A lot of times I see smaller companies, numbers, data architecture. I mean, I'll really thrive on that. Without data architecture and understanding your numbers, you can't get better. You can't continuously get better because you don't know where you are today and you don't know where you're going. So I look at it like invest early into people, and that means hiring a CFO, whether it's maybe you can only afford a CFO 40% of the time, but hire a CFO who has dedicated days embedded into your team and knows how to bring value, knows how to bring value every day. What does that look like? They may be implementing an ERP system, right? The smaller companies are only on QuickBooks. You're not going to be able to get all your data architecture until you up-level your systems. So you're going to up-level your system, your people first, then your processes, and then you're going to up-level your systems.
What type of complexities have you seen within companies that really deters their scalability?
Not getting everybody aligned around the strategic vision. Like, we are this and we're not that.
Okay.
So, and not aligning everybody, right, from the CEO and the CFO standpoint. Where do I play into that big picture and swim your own lane? So oftentimes I see companies, oh, we have a problem, Monday morning problem. We have a staff meeting on Monday morning.
Yep.
We have a problem, and the roles and responsibilities are not clean. So what happens? I call it kind of like Full Metal, what do you call it? Full Metal Jacket movie, right? Where there's a bomb in the middle of the road and everybody goes out and solves that. Where the companies that are successful, you're on it. If you need help, right? Boom. And that starts from the CEO on down.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's, like you said, it's always leadership from top down.
Yeah.
And, if the leaders aren't understood of the systems that must be implemented into a company, then you will have those breakdowns.
Yeah.
But I would, like you're saying, and then also we already know that the chief financial officer is a strategist, helping companies navigate their financial future.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about your roles and responsibilities to helping that CEO in the visionary within a company?
Yeah. So the way I see it, understand CFO has to be and must be aligned with the CEO. I see it as the number one success or number one not so successful as companies scale. Those two positions need to be aligned because oftentimes you have a very creative CEO, strong personality, and then the CFO kind of has to work as that trusted, conciliator, right? That business partner that says, hey, what happens if this, right? Not always. And then understanding, CFO needs to understand the business. How does this business work? And then work with bringing everybody into the room. What's marketing do? Right?
Yeah.
What's our
Just having an
what's our
alignment.
GTM and what's our revenue streams, right? What's our margins going to look like? What's our operating expenses? And getting everybody aligned around, okay, here's the vision. We have a vision. Here's what we should be doing. Everybody's got their own, call it line item, right? Or area of responsibility. How much am I going to spend for this? What's the return?
True.
And you're looking across the whole organization, right?
Yeah.
So then you're taking it real high level and then moving it down to what are the key metrics that I'm looking at day to day, week to week, right?
Yeah, I like that.
And then you're building your cadences, which are longer range. Here's your longer range, and then you're building your quarterly cadences.
So you've been through multiple transactions, right?
Yeah.
You've seen some ones that have gone all the way through, but let's talk about the war stories a little bit on what you see people doing that shouldn't have been done, to where then those out there can make sure that they're making the right decisions. Is there any specific circumstances that you can recollect?
Yeah.
that,
No. I got a good
that would
example.
allow.
So I was working for a granite company, family owned, $20 million operation, and all the stakeholders had a different vision of where the company was going to go, and they did not have they aligned around a CEO who had never done the job before. So in comes like John, hey, touch down, be part of the team, help us grow.
Yep.
And when you get there, you find out you spent too much money, right? There's no appetite to spend more money because there was no transparency as to where the money went. So I see a takeaway off that is keep your structure very simple. This one had like 67, it's hard to believe, 67 LLCs tied together.
Wow, that seems complex.
You know, it's like a shell game. You can't figure it out. You cannot figure out 67 LLCs fast enough. So keep your structure lean, do it right, and then organize around a board of directors if you have a board of directors, but they all have to align under one person, the CEO, and trust in that person instead of trying to micromanage.
Well, I think there's something you said that needs to be touched on is in alignment, and you've said it multiple times during the podcast, and I think it's important that we do have an alignment as owners of companies around obviously the goal, the mission, the values, that one has, and then that in essence helps to create the value within the company upon, for a future exit. And I think a lot of people, they're so focused on the end game that they're missing, the human interaction that needs to be had, the culture that is to be created that creates the value within a company. Because for example, you get to the purchase table and you're sitting across and everything seems to be only about numbers.
Right.
Have you experienced moments where the numbers are now then secondary to the company and to the people inside of it? Have you experienced that? Can you speak to the culture a little bit?
When I was in retail, we were purchasing pharmacies, like 2, 3, 4 pharmacies a month.
Okay.
So we had a playbook, and the numbers may pin out. They look good.
Yeah.
But then you start working with the team itself, and you're like,
this isn't working.
this is not going to be. And granted, mergers and acquisitions, they always say 1 + 1. Oh, we're going to buy one company. We're going to put it together. 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah. You hear that all the time.
Nuh-uh.
He really doesn't.
John Lewis will say 19 out of 20 times. Could even be higher. 1 + 1 = 1.5. You're not going to get that for some reason combining. So make sure, right, you have the right earnouts, the right cadence, because oftentimes you're buying a company, you're buying the talent.
Yeah.
That's what you're really buying.
I mean, the
Because without
integration.
the right talent, I always focus on that.
I mean, I've
the
gone
soft
through,
skills.
the various education on pre and post integration, and a lot of people are looking past. They look past the need to have a professionalized integrator that comes into their company prior to them selling, but even if they're not ready to sell, just understanding the entire integration process that will occur 6 months prior to, or even longer, if there's a cadence to be set for the value within a company that you hire a specific specific integrative professional that will help both with the pre-integration strategy as well as post-integration.
You almost have to hire a psychologist too.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very emotional.
Folks
are tied to their company. They have put their blood, sweat, and guts into it, right, for many years. And all of a sudden, that is launched into something bigger, and they are not in control day one. But there's different ways to integrate the company to where you're not alienating the founder, and the founder's not alienated. The teams need to really lean in.
And a lot of times founders and operators, they just don't know what they don't know, right? Like, for example, that's why they hire an expert like yourself to come in and from an objective point of view, create, and solidify efficiencies. But that's why I was like, man, what is even an integration professional? You know what I mean? Do they exist, and what do they do?
Yeah.
And how do they help my company, right? Even if I'm not ready to sell yet, how do they structure it?
Yeah.
I think I've interviewed a lot of people on this podcast, but there's been a lot of people that they speak about it's just being proactive in everything you do, whether it's the culture that you're creating to, the integration process to the financials and understanding. It's never, hey, I'm about to sell my business now, let's get the highest multiple. Never. And I'm sure you've seen that too.
No, I mean, my advice for folks, looking to sell their company is plan for that exit and engineer that exit. So you're hiring, whether it's the right finance person, whether it's, to the finance or the integrator.
That's
right?
good. Well,
Hiring them earlier, right? Even having your own, sell side QOE done, right?
That's good. From your perspective, making acquisitions, right? Because you went through a few different ones, right?
Yeah.
What were you guys looking for on the other side, from the companies that you were purchasing? Can you recall some of the due diligence process that you do, and then also for those out there that are doing their due diligence? I just want to make sure they're not missing anything that you may have insight to.
My insight is I always focus primarily on the revenue drivers.
Okay.
Right. Protecting and making sure that as you're moving an adjacent company into you, or maybe a complementary company, depending on the market they're in, that you're not alienated, your customer focus from day one.
That's good.
So what you do on day one is really, really critical as you reach out. You
Start the
bought
process.
A company. I mean, it should start before, and if it doesn't, your day one, you better have management there, right? And believe me, I've been purchased by, my companies have been purchased. I've been at companies that purchased, and day one, there's nobody from the acquiring company there. The best ones have their own, like,
18.
SOP, steps. Yeah. They have their own steps as to, this is how we integrate. I was part of an integration team, great team over at VMware, but I was part, of an integration there, and I did just a section of it, right?
Can you share with me a little bit deeper on your experience there and how an integration should go based on what you said as far as your experience?
Yeah. So we were purchasing a large company out of Atlanta coming in. I won't give names. And, we had somebody looking at the revenue stream. What's the revenue stream look like? How concentrated is it?
Customer concentration.
And then, how are we going to integrate in that sales team, right? The whole company's sales team, right? Into the mothership, right? And that's going to take several months to come together. But reaching out, right, to everybody on the team, right, is really, really important. Because the first thing folks do when their company is acquired, most of the time, they update their resume. So from day one, right?
Because they're looking to be hired elsewhere?
Yeah,
or they're just
because
updating.
they just don't know what about me. When
Oh, yeah,
when
what about me?
somebody's I mean, Nathan is really quite fascinating when a whole team is purchased, whether it's a small, large, whatever. The first thing people do, right?
Is
What
remove
about
the
me?
team.
What about
yeah.
me? Right? All of a sudden they're on a team. They feel they're on a team, but they're like, what about me? What about my house payment? What about my college
True.
fund? Right?
Yeah.
So people automatically go from team to individual. Well, if you're not on the ball and really aware of that, you're not addressing those concerns that the employees have. And it cannot only be orchestrated or teamwork through our HR. It's got to be authentic conversations from the managers.
Yeah, that's really wise. I mean,
So
I think
oftentimes, yeah.
what I'm saying is what you just said is in essence you've got you've got a takeover in essence from a company to another. And then if the integration process there is not successful, or it's just going to be a natural thought that one from another company is going to protect their being, right? Because they want to ensure that they have shelter in essence.
Yeah.
Which would be the team, which would be the company that provides them with their shelter. And then from there, it's your responsibility to make sure that you ensure them that they have a home, Yep. And I think for you out there that's building that company, or, you that's making the acquisition, or you that's exiting your company, don't just sell your company to somebody who's coming in and offering you something, because what you just created, you want to have as a legacy.
Right.
And then you as the buyer out
Right.
there, you want to buy a company and then create that culture of excellence
Right.
that can far withstand.
And I find all too often the first two people that are let go will be your CEO and your CFO. I've been at
interesting.
companies where the CEO and CFO are gone day one. I've seen them, have reduced roles, trying to, calm the chaos, so to speak, over time, or they have legitimate roles of integration and they help post-integrate, and then they opt out at that point. But oftentimes that's where a little bit more panic comes in when your founder is gone day one.
Yeah.
Man, your line worker, your billing clerk, all these people who've been faithful to you don't have a leader now.
That's good.
They're looking to another leader, and they're like, "Who is this?"
Yeah, that's good.
Well,
I think
person. Right.
one of the biggest, takeaways that we've gotten from this one is, obviously from you've been on the finance side, right? Which is a big part of the company.
Yep.
But you're also really understanding of the human psychology, because there's a match of both. In order to make an exit, you've got to have obviously all forms of synergy that are happening within that company, from the finance standpoint to the culture standpoint to the vision standpoint. And it seems that you've been in the middle of a lot of those transactions for obviously 75 plus transactions.
It's a lot of transactions.
And then some
I've seen a
IPOs
lot,
as well.
right?
So it's good that you have that perspective from a very wise, objective point of view, and that we could share that knowledge to the audience. So I'd be curious as to know what you're building now, and then also how can we as a collective be able to support you in your endeavors.
Yeah, so I love what I do, right?
I like that statement, by the way.
I see myself just continuing to help client to client. I'm an embedded CFO, office of the CFO. I partner with others, like accounting firms, if we need more help. I partner with systems providers, and basically I'm just helping company after company after company. I mean, that's Arbor Lane, right? So I see myself as I have great conversations with folks. The first question I ask is, hey, where do you want your company to be in 5 years, right? And then my job as an embedded office of the CFO is go in and help that team get there as quickly as possible, right? And, you don't want too much pain along the way. But there is pain anytime you see transformational stuff going on. You're looking at people. You're looking at processes.
Yep.
You're building stuff. You're tearing stuff down, redoing stuff that's not working. So you're continuously improving. And at the same time, you're developing that trust amongst the whole team.
That's good.
Your CTO, your CRO, your CMO, your EVP of manufacturing, right?
That's so good. Yeah. I mean, I would assume that there's so much wisdom that you have, through a lot of different transactions.
There's a lot of moving. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of moving parts in every company. I mean, it's incredible. We have some great companies in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you kind of look at those, right, and take some of their nuggets of wisdom and learn from the best. You're always learning, but at the same time, you're continually learning, and as mechanical and numbers oriented as folks can say, oh, this buyout or that buyout, it really comes down then to the people side of it, right?
Yep.
And it's funny because, like, sure, you get an LOI or a QOE and it's you're offering, and people are talking big numbers on EBITDA and multiples and everything, and everybody's really excited, but then it's how is that company going to thrive afterwards?
Yep.
Right. And then once it's there, what does it look like down the road? Right.
Sustainable legacies, I think is what you're talking about, and really understanding of what creates a durable, long-lasting company far beyond one transaction.
Yeah.
Will that company be transacted again 18 months later for less than what it just sold? Will the company go into bankruptcy because the buyer just bought something that wasn't actually what they paid for?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And all the operations just fall apart, because that happens as well, right?
Oh yeah.
And we see it often, in mergers and acquisitions. But I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I understand and believe that you'll create a lot of value for people in this world, and you already have. So just continue to do good work now. You know what I mean? John's out there in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Do you have any geographical constraints as to where you can work and who you can help?
No.
Okay, perfect.
We're across the whole geography. In fact, my business partner, Vicky, she's out of Palo Alto, California.
Perfect.
Which is Silicon Valley.
Yeah, Palo Alto. Sunnyvale, man. I went out there. It's beautiful. You got them big businesses. When I was building a tech company, I was enthralled. I was
It's
I'm
crazy.
Gonna build another one of these.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
But we just, again, we
good
want to
times.
honor you here on the podcast. We just want to say thank you for joining us
Thank
on
you.
the Acquisition HQ podcast.
You guys are doing great. You're building something special.
Well, we're excited to hear from you as well. We've got our upcoming conference, AquaCon, and it's aquacon.live. For those of you watching this, you can look it up. You'll see what we've created, the conference where everyone comes to. It's our national conference, right? It's like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You're actually one of our speakers for the panel discussion of the Q of E and creating value within that panel discussion. So, we're excited to hear more of that.
We will mix it up.
But if you guys like this episode and you want more just like this from seasoned veterans that have a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and also share this with your friends that are building companies, that are investing in companies, and also those M&A service providers that can glean some wisdom from other operators or advisors in the space. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, we can't wait to shoot more content just like this for you out there.